Hi, I'm Dan Gritzko, and I'd like to share a perspective on the politics and the providence of God related to the re-election of Speaker Mike Johnson. This past Friday, Speaker Mike Johnson was re-elected to retain that position. To be the Speaker of the House is an extremely difficult and demanding position. It's one that he's had really for a relatively short period of time, and at the same time, he developed a working relationship with former President Trump while he was running for re-election, and that was a very important relationship. So with Johnson's re-election, also with Trump's endorsement and active work in that process, his retaining the speakership, I think, is really, really important for President Trump, for the Republican Party, and those who favor the things that President Trump and his team will want to do. Regarding the providence of God, this is an interesting perspective. Those early presidents that we had in America and those who were involved in the founding of our nation often spoke of the providence of God. By that I mean when God acts in history. Since we are finite and God is infinite, at times we are guessing or speculating, and I say with humility, when we talk about the providence of God, we are talking about it trying to understand what God may be doing. Speaker Johnson had an event happen in his life 2 Thanksgivings ago. He was down in Florida at a fundraising event, and while he was there speaking at a hotel near the ocean, his 2 sons, or 2 of his sons, were out in the ocean, and one of them almost drowned, and the speaker was taken from the event by his staff to the hospital. As he spoke about that event with former President Trump, they talked about the providence of God, or how Trump commenting how God had saved those boys' lives. That would also be a topic that would come up again, sadly, a few months later, when the first assassination attempt took place in Butler, Pennsylvania, and there was a life that was lost there and several were injured, including President Trump. And those of us who watched that event recognize, but for a teeny little distance, former President Trump would have been killed. And he and Speaker Johnson, again, talked about the subject of the providence of God and how he had been protected in that moment. With Johnson's election this past Friday, again, as meaning retaining the speakership, it's worth again remembering this simple thing about both politics, what we do as humans, and then at the same time the interaction by Almighty God. Whether you are favorable to what's happening or don't favor what's happening, it's helpful for us as finite humans to remember this. I'm very thankful. To me, it's an answer to prayer that Speaker Johnson was reelected, and my perspective on it is simply to say to the Speaker, you will be in my prayers, and hope that in your efforts that you in humility will always recognize both God's work in your life and in what you do in Congress. And it's something you spoke about when you mentioned what you were going to do as you then took over the speakership. Those of you listening, I hope you have a very blessed and a wonderful day.